Hello my darlings, and welcome to The Library is Open. So I hope you have brought your library cards, my darlings. Go on, slip them out and flash them. Welcome to part 2 of a sort of unintentional mini-series that I began by asking you to send me questions, and which I'm now calling Sniffing Books, Spilling Tea. So if you saw the first episode, you will know that I didn't get to all of your questions that you'd asked. So I decided to cut them up into different parts. And who knows how many parts there'll be. Who can say for sure these days? But this is certainly part 2. And we are at a slightly different angle from the previous one. Although in the interest of pure honesty, it is actually the same day. Pre-filming content, as it were. Yeah, let's crack on in, shall we? As before, I'm using a random choice question generator, and I haven't really studied the questions that you've asked me in advance, so that we get a more, just instantaneous response to whatever you wanted to know. So, without further ado, let's jump on in. Oh. Okay, we have got... this is from Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Can I be extra nosy and ask another? You can ask as many questions as you like, Kelly. I don't mind questions at all. How long have you been practicing yoga and how did you get into it? I did yoga for years and it's something I'm rediscovering. I love to hear how people find yoga, as most people are gym bunnies these days. It's a good question. Thank you. I think a lot of people are, aren't they? Very, very sort of gym friendly. The gym is not something that I'm interested in. I think fair play to you if you are. No diss in that respect, or whatever. But it's not something I'm personally interested in. I just find it too boring. Again, my personal opinion, not a value judgment. So I've been practicing yoga for about... Trying to add up now. Maths is clearly not my strong point. I'm gonna say about 14, 15 years. And I kind of got into it accidentally, to be honest. Mostly through the desire to be more active, more sort of aware and conscious, and so on and so forth, which sort of coincided with acting and that, although I didn't really do much yoga at drama school or anything. But I had a friend who was a yoga teacher and who taught me their very sort of specific, I guess, I don't want to say routines, because I don't think yoga is necessarily a routine-based thing, although it can be. But rather their sort of personal practice, I suppose, is the best. So I kind of follow variations on that. And I do it every morning, apart from one day a week, which I just sort of call a rest day, as it were. I don't know if that's actual pedagogy or if I'm just deciding to have one day off, who knows. But yeah, I've been doing it, I do it every morning, as I say, 6 days a week. And, it's usually first thing in the morning, so depending on the start of my day, so anywhere between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, and it actually really does set me up for the day. I'm always a bit sort of grumbly at the start, but then when I've done it, I feel a lot better and sort of prepared for the day. So yeah, that's my thing. So good question though. Yeah, it's something that's kind of stuck with me through the years, and continues to bring me, I guess, joy, energy, things like that. So, and also just to center my mind, because I think that's really important. Cool, thank you, Kelly. Next up, what do we get? John Ross, stick together. John Ross. Hi, John Ross. Thank you for your question. What is your favourite letter of the alphabet and why? Obviously, it's S. S, I think it's very versatile. And it's not just because it's the start of my name. It absolutely is because it's the start of my name. But, no, I don't know. I like the letter S. I don't know. I think aesthetically it pleases me a lot. Because of the curviness and I don't know. I just really like the letter S. I think that's like a question that's kind of similar to asking someone their favourite colour, isn't it? You just sort of know. It's an instinctive thing. Green, FYI. But yes, the letter S. Today's letter is the letter S. What do we got? What are your favourite colour combinations? That's from Star Cradle. Oh, I didn't even plan that, but it's picked up. So I really like, well, I kind of vacillate between several approaches to this. One is to observe like the colour wheel, so opposite colours, which work really, really nicely together, which I use a lot in coming up with kind of makeup and outfit combinations for my asthma. My third cousin twice removed of the Vegan Queens below, if you haven't subscribed. They also have merch. So yeah, so opposite colours on the colour wheel are usually very complementary to one another, so things like blue, orange, things like that. But also I really like unexpected combinations sometimes. Like at the moment I'm really loving green, pink and yellow. I think are gorgeous together. I like, what else do I like? I like purple and green. Green's a common denominator in all of these. Yeah, I think it's either a theoretical kind of combo where things are supposed to be complementary, or something that shouldn't work at all. Like I, for instance, really like red and green, even though they should never be seen except on a queen. So yeah, but I think there's something about yellow, pink and green. I think that might be my perfect colour combination. Pink and green is actually the colours of my bedroom, and has been in various forms for many years, so maybe that's the enduring one. My husband's got a beautiful wig that's like half green, half pink, and yeah, that just kind of works really nicely for me. So yeah, thank you. What else we got? Do you tend to be very nostalgic? This is Star Cradle as well. Oh yes, oh my god, yes. I am incredibly nostalgic while being very aware that it can potentially be problematic. I think it's a funny one because I think my natural sort of go-to or default position oftentimes is I skew very melancholic as a general rule, and I think nostalgia does play into that a little bit, because whilst it can be very sort of affirming and give you a lot of pleasure to remember the past, I think we have to remember that the past is not remembered objectively, it's remembered entirely subjectively. Apologies for oversimplifying that as if you don't know the difference. But so I think it can be a bit like Parmesan cheese, vegan obviously. It's best used sparingly. I think a lot of the political problems that we have in the world these days, and the sort of social justice issues that we come up against in terms of, minority groups or identity politics, whatever you want to call it, come about because people are fed a diet of faux nostalgia. So the most obvious examples would be America, the sort of American dream of the white picket fence in the 50s, and in England the sort of country lane, post-war we'll meet again kind of nostalgia, and I think politicians and unscrupulous corporations and such force feed us that, and then tell us that the reason that we don't have that anymore is because of X minority group, and that's what creates a lot of social division, as though people are in the way of us really achieving that, whereas I don't actually think that existed ever, really, not in the way that it's promoted. So I have to really sort of, on a personal level, if I'm going to critique that on a macro level, I have to critique that on a personal level as well in myself, and recognise that I am remembering sometimes what I would like as opposed to what was. But I do think that's a very human trait in many ways. So great question. Nostalgic, yes, but not always practically is probably the best way to describe that. Thank you. Come on, it's those vegan guys. Also subscribe to them, they're always linked in my description if you haven't. How long have you been such an avid reader? So I touched on this a little bit in my last video, but I do think this is a slightly different question to, did you read a lot as a child? So I think I think I have always been such an avid reader, but I don't think I've always been as eclectic, I suppose, and kind of fixated on it. I think having this channel as well in particular has sort of heightened that, if you will, because it's given me a really good reason to really indulge myself in that. But yeah, I think from childhood, where my choices up to probably up to being in my 20s were very specific. You know, I had very specific genres, very specific authors that I would read all of their work. I'm quite loyal in that respect. But post that, I think in the sort of last decade or so, I have become much more adventurous, I suppose, in my choices, and that's kind of upped the avidity. Oh, upped the avidity, I like that, of my reading habits. But yeah, I think I've quite an addictive personality as well in some respects, so I think that probably contributed a lot to the avidness of my reading and my obsession with books and so on and so forth. So yes, but not to the extent that I am now is probably the answer, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. But as I've said before, you know, when it comes to habits, there are far worse things. I could be addicted to crystal meth. I'm not. I'm addicted to, you know, Murder on the Orient Express. Are they different? I think they are. So thank you for the question, my lovelies. Oh, good question. Not book related, but I love that. It's from Star Cradle. Which albums, if any, are you able to listen to without skipping a track? That's such a good question. Ooh, not that many. I think I'm quite specific again when it comes to music. Like, I'm quite eclectic in my tastes, but I am also quite specific in what I want from music. So off the top of my head, I can listen to all 3 of the Spice Girls albums without skipping any tracks, because I think they're masterpieces of 90s pop. Not even a joke. I actually really like I don't think it's is it the first album? I don't think it is. Where's the discography? See, I'm live Googling. It's... Oh, maybe it is the first album. No, it's not the first album. It's, I think it's the second album. Yes, the second My Chemical Romance album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, I think is really well-crafted piece of alt-pop punk. And that's great. What else do I really, really like? American Idiot by Green Day is a great album, conceptually. I'll think of loads now. The Grease 2 soundtrack, obviously. If you don't know, Grease 2 is my favourite film, and that's an unironic favourite. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. Again, absolute masterpiece, which actually makes me cry a lot. And that kind of feeds into my faux nostalgia. But, yeah, other than that, I'm not a huge album listener as much these days as I used to be. Oh, maybe Kate Bush as well. Which is the one with Hounds of Love on it. Because I love that album. Is it Hounds of Love? What, should it just be called Hounds of Love now? It is Hounds of Love. Pretend that didn't happen. I'd edit this out, but I'm not going to. Yeah, the Hounds of Love album by Kate Bush, who's just on another level. The latest Alanis Morissette album, by the way, is excellent. What's it called? Why can't I remember things? Lots of tippy-tappy in here. Such Pretty Forks in the Road, which, you know, actually, funnily enough, a lot of people have described as a kind of Jagged Little Pill Part 2, so maybe that does make sense, but particularly the track Ablaze is gorgeous. But if you haven't checked that out, I really would. And also the album cover is stunning. Oh, actually, funnily enough, Genesis, Nursery Crime, is a great album, a great concept album, with really, really long tracks. Personal favourite is Harold the Barrel. I love storytelling in songs. I love mood and you know, thematic resonance. So anything that's kind of there, that has those qualities, I will probably listen to all the way through. I'll tell you what is a really good album, actually, although it's not really my kind of thing per se, is the Lady Gaga album Chromatica, the latest one. So I did some work with some of my students using the album as a stimulus, and I actually got to listen to it all the way through. And it's really well done in terms of the segmentation of the sections and the holistic, like, overall you know, theme to the album. It's very cleverly split and, you know, introduced with interspersed with like lead-ins and orchestral moments and stuff. So I mean, say what you want about Lady Gaga. I'm not a little monster or anything like that. Although I do respect some of her work and stance and stuff like that, but not so much the meat dress. But for obvious reasons. But you know, thematically, I think it's really good. So that's a very sprawling answer, Star. I'm sorry, but I hope it made a little bit of sense. This is also from Star Cradle. I promise this is not rigged. Do you like board games? Yes. Again, specific ones. So I don't really get much chance to play them these days, which is a proper shame, because I think when I was a kid I used to really like board games. It's because we had no internet and only 3 channels. I really love, my favourite board game is Cluedo. Called Clue in America, which is also the film, which is also excellent. I love Cluedo. I used to really like, what was the one I loved as a kid? It was great. It's got Mousetrap, where you had to like build the apparatus up and then you take the mouse round and then you put it in a trap, and there's a whole like assault course of things that eventually trap the mouse, which actually, looking back, is probably not very vegan, is it? What we're going to assume is that they trapped the mouse and then released it into the wild to go and run free. Born free. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Monopoly, but I think, in fairness, that's because I've never really completely understood it, and you know, maybe my brain just doesn't work that way. Do I like any others? I don't know. I really don't know, actually. Yes, in theory, let's go. In theory, yes, I absolutely do like board games, but Cluedo is definitely my favourite. We play a lot at Christmas usually, like, because we don't watch TV on Christmas Day, because I always spend Christmas Day with my nan. Bless her. So we usually play games after tea and that, in the early evening before bed, and they often are board games. So there, yeah. No, je ne regrette rien. Je ne regrette rien. Oh, here we go. This is from Kelly. Robert wants to know if you have always been creative, or did you find that path later in life? And did you write as a child, or were you more of a reader than a writer as a child? Ooh, it's a 3-part question. Great question. Hi, Robert. So I think probably I've always been creative. I think that's always the way that my brain has worked. Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, my love of sort of theatre and making hit very early on. You know, so I used to like create little plays with my play people, and then I had a little theatre that I'd made out of a shoebox, and I used to invite my family members to pay like 20p to come and watch the show. And sometimes if I was extra lazy, I just used to play the songs in the background and have the play people like lip sync to the music. Can I go any brighter? A little bit. Just because it's gone a bit grim. Yeah, and then I was very much a dresser-upper, a fancy dress person as a kid, with like found materials from around the house. It's not a million miles away, if I'm honest, now, from where my asthma is. I do credit my sort of early drag, you know, fascination with Michelle Pfeiffer, or Michelle Pfeiffer, to give her a Sunday name. in Grease 2 as Stephanie Zanoni. As I mentioned earlier, it's my favourite film, and I did construct an outfit for her out of my mum's old underskirts and, you know, some old terry cloth nappies that I used as comfort blankets when I was a kid. I say kid, I was still like nearly 10, but hey ho, we're all friends here. But yeah, definitely, I think I was more of a reader as a child, although I always wrote, like when we got the opportunity at school, I always wrote short stories, and they were quite, like, looking back now, I think they were quite epic really in their in their intention, if not their execution. But I never really sort of thought seriously about a creative career, because there was, now I don't want to say this in a way that makes it sound like my family were sort of very anti that, because they were very supportive in many respects, but it was a given that a creative career would not be something that was a wise choice for someone like me with my background. You know, the whole thing of, like, I think we're getting there, I don't think we're there completely yet, but the idea that if you come from a particular background, or, you know, from a particular class, that it's not an avenue that's open to you, and we're starting to erode that a little bit, but we're not quite there yet. So, you know, I sort of did a lot of, it was a labour of love, I suppose, my creativity, but I never sort of thought it would become my career until a little bit later in life, when I just decided that I was going to make it my career. So yeah, I think always more of an observer than a fully active participant until a bit later, but I think the gene was always there. I was always a maker, you know, a crafter, if you will, be that of words or materials or whatever. That was just where my natural inclinations lay. Lovely question, thank you. What have we got? Here's Dark Red Glen. Lovely. Do you have any bookmarks? And if so, do you have a favourite? I use a lot of, I always try and use a bookmark because I don't like bending covers unless, not bending covers, bending pages unless I absolutely have to. So I'll use all sorts of things like a pencil or like an old hairband or something like that. I don't necessarily have a favourite, although I will just say that my current one, which I really, really love, is this one. My little YouTuber, which is from an ex-student of mine who has a theatre company called Sodomite, which is an LGBTQ IA theatre performance company, and with whom I'm working on something that's a little bit hush. No, it's not really hush, but it hasn't been announced yet at the moment. And they did, part of their merch was to create a series of tarot cards with the company logo. Well, not the company logo, sorry, but with the Sodomite, which is a specially created tarot card on the back of existing tarot cards. So I, being a lovely former teacher, I decided to support the company and donate to them, and you know, really kind of try and champion the work that my ex-students are doing, because, you know, they're all fabulous. So that's my current favourite bookmark. But I really like those ones that you sort of get, you know, like for free in whatchamacallit, you know, at the bookshop and stuff, like they're at the counter. They usually advertising forthcoming releases. Or there's a lovely one from, I think it's Blackwell's, where it shows like an artist's impression of Blackwell's like years and years and years and years ago. It's really lovely. I really like those. But what I really want actually is one of those wooden ones, you know, the sort of rest things that you can get where they hold your book open. Oh, it smells good. And then you sort of wedge it there and then close it. I would love one of those, but they're quite expensive actually. Just been having a look on Etsy and things like that. So, but yeah, that's my answer. I think we've just got time for one more. PC Orton, thank you. I suppose I have to ask the tattoo question. Yes, you did. You will have glimpsed my tattoos in my videos. Is that like weird? I don't know, it might just be the setting sun or whatever. That was poetic, wasn't it? Yes, I do have lots of tattoos. I think I have about 9 or 10 now. my sort of collection started, if you will, when I was 18. My first tattoo ever, which is my comedy tragedy theatre mask, which I got, I think, for my 18th birthday, as I recall, so it's quite a while back now. So that was my first one, followed up with this one here, which is the logo of Pink Triangle Theatre, which I co-set up with Paul and Jason of Those Vegan Guys in, I think it was 2009, I want to say. That's quite a while back now. And then sort of since then, I have a really good friend who does all my tattoos. And I really like, I think for a long time I was really worried about getting lots of tattoos because I was still thinking of myself as a traditional actor. And while that's kind of true, I've kind of moved away from that. And I had this thought that, you know, I couldn't have too many bodily adornments, and that worked out well. Because it would limit me in terms of my roles. But the more I've been sort of getting older and thinking about it, conceptualizing it, it's important to me that I wear the art that matters. So that's sort of gone down by the wayside, really, and I've sort of embraced the idea of my body as canvas kind of thing. That's kind of where my head is now, and because a lot of my work revolves around the use of self in performance. So a couple of others I have. So I have this little beauty, I hope you can see that, which is Melanie C, or Sporty Spice, in the Viva Forever video, Spice Girls, which is my favourite, and they were a big part of my childhood. I have Snake Lady, which is one of my earlier ones, which is based on a look I did for my asthma for Manchester Pride many years ago, where I sort of did this snake goddess look. I have my love for Buffy on my arm. It's from the episode Hush. It says Buffy will patrol tonight, and it's the sort of acetate that Giles did when all the characters lost their voices, and it's just kind of an iconic like fan moment, if you will. Magic wand here. Again, that was kind of just a whim. I just really like what my friend the tattooist had done, like a sort of flash sheet, and said, would you like any of these? And I would. Because I also, as you know, I'm really into sort of Victorian spiritualism, mysticism, and so on and so forth, and so it's kind of like magic. I also have here my deep love for Grease 2, which is the girls from All Seasons in the talent contest. And finally, I don't know how to do it at this angle. I'm gonna have to go there. My Femme Green Ranger, which is Power Rangers, another massive influence on me that I still adore to this day. But I had my tattooist, oh, that's better, isn't it? Feminize it and make it essentially a queen Power Ranger, green queen, if you will. So little high heels and all sorts. So yeah, that's the story of my tattoos. I think that's all of them. Oh well, if not, look out for the sequel. But I will be getting more. The next ones I want are going to be around, as I say, Victorian mysticism. So influences from the tarot, the crystal ball, you know, sort of that kind of faux spiritualism that may have been real, may have not been, in that period. I'm really into that sort of aesthetically. Maybe a cabinet of curiosities, things like that. So thank you for the question. And I think that's all we've got time for in this episode. Who do I think I am? Annika Rice. But I will continue, because I still haven't got through all your questions yet, so I will continue and I will make another episode. But for now, put those library cards somewhere safe and make sure that you don't lose them. Didn't know where that sentence was going, you can probably tell. Thank you again for joining me, and thank you for all your questions. I really do appreciate them, and for your continuous support. Until I see you again, take care of yourselves, give yourselves a big hug, one from me and one from you, and I will see you in the next installment. Much love. Mwah.